Hey y'all, today I'd like to talk to you about a different take on interval studies. Intervals are something that have been part of my regular practice routine for literally decades, and they're discussed in many guitar videos and literature. I do believe that they are an important part of your practice study, but I tend to think that the way that I see most people practicing them leaves about another half or perhaps 2/3 more of a practice that you can expand on and get more out of your interval practicing. I'll be using the 2-octave G major scale today in second position. And I'm going to break it down into thirds and diatonic triads, and we'll just discuss the difference between my take on it and what you might usually see. Almost every time I see somebody playing this practice, you ascend with thirds. When we get to the top, we descend with thirds coming back down. The idea that I'm working with is that my interval can remain static, meaning that if I'm playing an ascending third, I will keep that third ascending whether I'm going up the scale or down. What that looks like coming down is it means that I'm playing a third up for my pitch, then I'm going to the next note and following it up with a third up. I can then reverse the pattern by starting with a descending third, but going up the scale in descending thirds. When I get all the way up, then I just keep coming with the descending thirds back down the scale. Here I have the metronome set at 80 BPMs, and I'll give you an example of my thirds going ascending up and down the scale first, followed by descending up and down the scale at the same tempo. Sounds something like this. Reverse. The next step in this process would take us to contoured intervals. If you're not familiar with contoured intervals, the concept is that you play an ascending interval followed by a descending interval while going up and down the scale, or vice versa. Example would be here. Ascending, descending, ascending, descending. This brings me to a point about practice habits in general, that you should never practice any of these techniques faster than you can do them comfortably, consistently, and cleanly. If you think about practice as feeding a data drop to your muscles, maybe from your head to your hands, if you're feeding bad information to your hands, you're going to get bad information back. That means if I'm constantly making mistakes and not playing it correctly, I'm actually not teaching myself correctly. I'm teaching my hands how to play things incorrectly. If you struggle with getting contoured intervals quickly or consistently, put a break between each one. Maybe I'm going to play my first two, break, next one. By doing them cleanly and consistently up the neck and putting breaks in between, I can play it at a faster tempo than I can as one consistent practice. Here again is my click at 80 BPMs while I'll go through my contoured intervals. I'm going to start with putting the pauses in between, and then at a certain point I'll continue and I'll go up and down the scale without the breaks. Sounds like this. Another step in this practice technique would be playing diatonic arpeggios up and down your major scale. Diatonic is a term that refers to using only notes within one scale or one key. Playing the triad arpeggios up and down this particular pattern would be playing the root, third, fifth on every scale tone, going going up the neck. There could be an argument that you should know every triad that you're playing and think to yourself, G major, A minor, B minor, C. While I think that that is important, if you can sort of see the scale as a template on your neck, there's another thought that you can play these triads simply by looking at the imprint of the scale on the neck, and that's another technique. Here my click is again on 80 BPMs, and here's two different ways to put breaks into your triad exercises so you can make them more comfortable for you to play if you can't do them consistently. You could pause on the fifth. Another way to do it might be playing 1, 3, 5, 3, 1 on every chord. Here I'll go back down.